Hello and welcome. You're watching India Ahead with me, Neha Khanna. Big focus tonight. Just what is the truth about Vignesh's death, the young man who recently died in police custody in Chennai? The autopsy report came out today and it seems to contradict the Tamil Nadu police version. The report reveals that Vignesh was brought dead to hospital on 19th April and had at least 13 external injuries on his body, including a fracture. The cops had told the family that Vignesh had a minor injury and died after suffering from seizures. The family has maintained all along that Vignesh was beaten to death by the police. There's also CCTV footage that shows two cops chasing Vignesh. In this video, he can be seen running across the road, trying to escape before one of the cops throws a stick at his leg. Vignesh falls and is caught by the cops. His family has alleged that the Tamil Nadu police have been trying to cover up Vignesh's custodial killing and that they even offered them money to hush up the case. Vignesh and his associate Suresh were arrested for alleged possession of marijuana. Vignesh subsequently died in custody. Now, this isn't the first case of a custodial death in Tamil Nadu. There was a similar case reported in January this year. Then there is the high-profile case of Jairaj and Benex that was reported back in 2020. Of course, similar cases have been reported from other parts of the country as well. The question is, will the cops responsible for the alleged torture and death of Vignesh be booked, arrested and brought to justice? Do we not need much greater accountability of the police across India, given the staggering number of custodial killings that have been reported over the years? Will there be justice for Vignesh and his family?
அந்த குப்பத்தில் இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும். அவர் எல்லாருமே அடிக்கிறது ஒத்திக்கிறது அவர் கண்டாலே எல்லாமே ஓடுவாங்க. தப்பே பண்ணாத கூட தப்பு பண்ணிக்கணும்னு கேட்டால் எல்லாமே ஒத்துக்குவாங்க. அதுதான் அவரோட பாலிசி.
கையை காலை ஓடிக்கிறதுல ஸ்பெஷலிஸ்ட்.
கையை காலை ஓடிக்காரு. அவர் பிடிச்சாருன்னா கையை காலை ஓடிக்காம விட மாட்டார்.
சரி, இப்போ உங்க பையன் எங்க இருக்காரு?
அவன் உள்ள இருக்கிறான் ஜெயிலில்.
அவரையும் அடிச்சாங்களா?
அவனையும் அடிச்சுக்கிறாங்க.
ரெண்டு பேரையும் ஒண்ணா அரெஸ்ட் பண்ணலாமா?
எது ரெண்டு பேரும்? அவங்க ரெண்டு பேரும் ஒன்றா தான் அரெஸ்ட் பண்ணிக்கிறாங்க, ஒன்றா தான் அடிச்சிருக்கிறாங்க. அவங்கள ரெண்டு பேருமே ஒன்றா தான் அடிச்சு சரியான அடி அடிச்சுக்கிறாங்க. இவனையும் தான் அடிச்சிருக்கிறாங்க.
இரவு வழக்கமாக மேற்கொள்ளக்கூடிய வாகன சோதனையின் போது சென்னை பட்டினப்பாக்கம் பகுதியைச் சார்ந்த சுரேஷ், விக்னேஷ் ஆகிய இருவரும் வந்த ஆட்டோவை கெல்லிஸ் அருகில காவல்துறையினர் நிறுத்தியிருக்கிறார்கள். கஞ்சா போதையில் இருந்த அவர்களை காவல்துறையினர் விசாரித்தப்போ சரியான பதில் சொல்லாத காரணத்தால் வாகனத்தையும் அவர்களையும் சோதனையிட்டிருக்கிறார்கள். அப்படி சோதனையிட்ட போது அவர்களிடம் கஞ்சா மற்றும் மது பாட்டில்கள் இருந்தது தெரிய வந்திருக்கிறது. பிறகு அவர்களை காவல் நிலையத்திற்கு வருமாறு அழைத்திருக்கிறார்கள். காலை இருவருக்கும் காலை உணவு வழங்கப்பட்டிருக்கிறது. காலை உணவு சாப்பிட்ட பின் விக்னேஷுக்கு திடீரென்று வாந்தி வலிப்பு வந்திருக்கிறது. உடனே அருகில் இருக்கக்கூடிய தனியார் மருத்துவமனைக்கு அவரை கொண்டு சென்றிருக்கிறார்கள். அங்கிருந்து மேல் சிகிச்சைக்காக கீழ்ப்பாக்கம் அரசு மருத்துவமனைக்கு கொண்டு செல்லப்பட்டிருக்கிறார். ஆனால் அங்கு அவரை பரிசோதித்த மருத்துவர்கள் அவர் இறந்த நிலையில் கொண்டு வரப்பட்டதை தெரிவிச்சிருக்கிறார். இதனைத் தொடர்ந்து இறப்பு குறித்து சந்தேக மரணம் என முறைப்படி வழக்கு பதிவு செஞ்சு மாஜிஸ்ட்ரேட் விசாரணை நடைபெற்று வருகிறது. மனிதாபிமான அடிப்படையில் உயிரிழந்த விக்னேஷோட குடும்பத்திற்கு ஏழ்மை நிலையை கருத்தில் கொண்டு உடனடியாக ரூபாய் 10 லட்சம் ரூபாய் அந்த குடும்பத்திற்கு நிவாரணம் வழங்கப்படும்.
All right, so just what is the truth about Vignesh's death? Will there be justice for Vignesh and his family? Clearly, the Tamil Nadu police have a lot to answer for, as does the Tamil Nadu government, to whom the police report. Let's go straight across to our panel of guests. Joining me on the show tonight, SP Ved, former Director General of Jammu and Kashmir Police, Henry Tifagne, Executive Director of People's Watch and National Secretary of Human Rights Defenders Alert India, PK Jain, a member State Police Complaints Authority and former Additional Director General of Police, and Hasina Karbi, founder Impulse NGO Network and a human rights activist. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Hasina Karbi, if I could begin with you. Based on whatever we know about this case so far, it looks like a lot doesn't add up, especially as far as the police version is concerned. The police had claimed that Vignesh had a minor injury and died after suffering from seizures. The family had maintained all along that this was a case of a custodial death. The young man was beaten to death by the police, according to the family. The family has also alleged that they were offered money by the police to hush up this case. The autopsy report that has come out today seems to contradict the police version. There were at least 13 external injuries on Vignesh's body, including a fracture. And it now seems as if the police may have even released a doctored picture of Vignesh's body soon after his death. What do you make of all these facts? And the biggest question really is, how confident can we be that justice will be done? 2 cops have been suspended in this case so far, but not a single arrest made. And even the Tamil Nadu government is just repeating the version of the police. Hasina, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
That question is for you.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think if we are going by the last 2 decades, we have around 1,888 custodial deaths that has been reported across India, and only 893 cases were registered against police personnel. This itself, it's something that it's never come out in the open. It's only the registered death that it's taken forward, but there are many more that is unreported. So police officers and justice officers were formally accused in these 93 cases. Like only 26 policemen were convicted in the official record. So if we're looking by this number, this particular case that have just happened right now is also going underground, where the reality of what really happened with custodial death is never reported. Now, this is always the play of power. We always have to understand that this is a violence in police custody and also in judicial custody. And custodial violence, which include all form, like what you've just mentioned about the report that was already there, is also part of how many deaths has taken place in this aspect. So we really need to see, and I think police reform is needed in our country, where custodial death has to be taken as a violence against human rights. Unless until that is being pronounced very strongly, we will still have these kind of cases that is happening, and we'll still have very limited case that is being reported.
Hasina, you make valid points, and therefore this really raises questions about whether the police in our country are accountable. Before I go across to the former cops on the panel, let's hear from Henry Tefagne, who in fact, is the lawyer for Vignesh's family. Henry, this is obviously an impossibly difficult time for Vignesh's family. What do you make of the autopsy report that has come out today? Because like I stated earlier, the family has been categorical that this young man was beaten to death by the police and that the police have been attempting a cover-up from day one. Do you believe the findings of the autopsy report corroborate the version of the family? And if yes, what action needs to be taken against the cops who are involved?
Thank you for inviting me. I just want to categorically tell all the panelists here, the family has been informed about the content of the post-mortem certificate that Vinod received this evening from the Dean of Hill Park Medical College. Just imagine that from day one, we have been sending emails to the Dean for the certificate, which was held back on various grounds, and ultimately it was given today. But the videotape has not been given to us. I've issued an email to the health secretary saying that I will be forced to take contempt proceedings against the dean for not parting with the videotape to the family. That apart, this is categorically corroborating every bit of the narration that was made to us by Prabhu, because Prabhu was the auto driver, and the news that we got through other inmates in the prison about what Suresh was talking about, the forms of torture that he had sustained in the police station. Now, this has been confirmed today by the post-mortem report, but I'm happy to break the news to you that it has also been confirmed by Suresh to the National Commission for Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribes, Mr. Harun Haldar, honorable member, who had met him late in the evening today in the Pudal 2 prison. Now, it is confirmed that he has categorically shared every bit of the form of torture that he sustained. So, the post-mortem report with the 13 injuries is not only 13 injuries. I want to point out to you that there is a fracture.
There's a fracture,
There is a
yes.
fracture of the tibial bone, right tibial bone, and there are two diffuse contusions. Which means in the continuous beating in one place for a long period of time alone can bring diffuse contusions. So this is torture very clearly leading to death of Vignesh, which has been made clear. The second point on your show, which I would like to say, is today the SC/ST Commission saw the caste certificate. I'm sorry to use these words, but it is important in legal parlance to tell you that it is now categorically proved through a certificate that Vignesh's brother's certificate proves that he was a member of the scheduled caste community, and Suresh's mother came with the...
And therefore, this is also a case under the SC/ST Act. I understand the point that you're making, Henry.
Tamil Nadu was pulled up by the commission.
Yes.
Why the SC/ST Atrocities Act has not been attracted?
I completely take your point, Henry, that in this case, the SC/ST Act also is valid. I take that point. But at the end of the day, this is a human life that we are talking about, a young life that was snuffed out in police custody. And this story is absolutely horrifying. The torture that you've described is absolutely chilling. The question is anyone going to be held accountable for this? Because more often than not, unfortunately, the police who are guilty of these excesses seem to get away. So I will come back to you, Henry, but let's get a word in from the former cops on the panel. SP Ved, let me come to you, sir. Now, this is very, very distressing. You know, this is not the first time that a case of a custodial death has been reported in India. There have been many such cases in Tamil Nadu alone. But look at the facts of this case. The police seem to be, misleading with their version every step of the way. The post-mortem report seems to corroborate the family's version that there was torture involved. This young man was beaten mercilessly in custody, and that is what may have led to his death. I know that the matter is still under investigation and we are not in a position to sit in judgment of whether the cops killed him or not. But my question to you really is, sir, will justice be done? Can we really be sure that there will be a transparent probe, and if it is indeed proven that these men were guilty, they will be brought to book? Because the belief is that the policemen who are guilty of excesses get away 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah, as far as I recall, many policemen have been punished, convicted, tried. Those cases where there have been a clear evidence of torture, and this case is no different. I think severest action should be taken against policemen who have who are held responsible for custodial torture. And each human life is very, very precious. I think that the dignity of life and the life itself is very precious to our country's value system. And policemen must be held accountable wherever they resort to custodial torture. And but I want to make a point here. See, this country is getting what people wanted, the kind of police there. If you put dung, you will get a dung cake. If you put milk, you will get a milk cake. I don't think there is policing is a priority in this country. And you look at the way the police reforms have gone. Look at the way the police training is done. The forensic science, which is so vital, so important in investigation, is absolutely lacking in most of the police stations in the country. There is no assistance to the investigating officers as far as forensic sciences. I think policing is least priority in this country. Only law and order part is that is required by the ruling whichever party is in power in whichever state.
Okay.
So, as far as investigation and quality of investigation and providing justice to the people is concerned, there is hardly any effort put by both the state governments and the government of India to make police equip itself in terms of training, in terms of human rights, in terms of
That's a valid
forensic
point,
science,
sir.
in terms of the dignity of life. These things need to be
I take your
incorporated in the
point, sir.
police
I
plan.
take your point. You are saying policing is not a priority in this country. If you look at the quality of training that's imparted, in many cases, yes, the cops are overburdened, overstretched, overworked, underpaid. Police reforms are desperately needed. It's something we've been talking about for years and decades, and it doesn't seem to happen. I agree with you on all of that. However, PK Jain, that does not absolve cops from responsibility when it comes to these kind of cases of torture and custodial killings. Mr. Ved was talking about how many cops have been prosecuted. Well, let's go through the statistics that Hasiba mentioned earlier on in the show. In the last 20 years, sir, according to the National Crime Records Bureau, there have been at least 1,888 custodial deaths in India in the last 20 years. 893 cases were registered against police personnel. 358 police personnel were charge-sheeted. Guess how many were convicted in the end? 26 policemen in the last 20 years. Therefore, the question that really arises is, can we really hope for justice, especially when the same police force that is in the dock is investigating its own?
Neha, figures apart, I would like to certainly confirm that the human rights have become very, very important for any police force these days. If we have to, if we have to absolve ourselves in the eyes of the society, then action has to be taken against the guilty. In the instant case, there is no doubt 13 injuries, including one fracture. There cannot be any other excuse of falling down while on the run, having been hit by a stick or something. There can be no excuse. So in this case, apparently there is use of force by the policeman on the spot. And unfortunately, if one policeman goes astray and acts and behaves like this, the entire police force gets a bad name. So it is in the interest of the Tamil Nadu police that they should investigate this case thoroughly and immediately and put up a charge sheet. And these people, in any case, should be dismissed, the people who are responsible. Very quick action and very stern action only can send the message down the line. Let me also add here, in Maharashtra, we have a system that even if a person dies in the police station, whether it is not actually in the police custody, he has not been arrested, but even if a person dies in the police station or in a police chowki, we treat it as a death in police custody, and the CID inquiry follows and all the other action takes place. But state police being a state subject, many a times the culprits do go and catch hold of the feet of the politicians and the powers that be, and they escape punishment. That is also a fact of life. And many cases of police torture, custodial torture and deaths, they go unpunished.
Okay.
Human rights commissions have been doing their bit, but unfortunately that is not good enough.
Sir, they're toothless bodies. Let's face it. Whether it's the National Commission for Women, whether it is the Commission for Child Rights Protection, whether it is human rights bodies, they are by and large toothless tigers, and that really is the part of the problem.
Neha. They're absolutely toothless. Their recommendations are only recommendatory in nature.
Exactly.
There's no force of law behind them. So with the result that the state governments throw their recommendations into the dustbin the moment they are received, and it takes a extremely persistent commission to ensure that some kind of action is taken on their reports. And generally, it doesn't
Exactly.
happen.
The reports are never acted upon. As you said, the recommendations are consigned to the dustbin. Therefore, even as we go on talking about police reforms, we need to first begin by delivering justice in these cases. Hasina, let me come to you. Mr. Jain is saying human rights are now very important for the police forces in this country. But with due respect, does the ground reality really reflect that? And also, I want to ask you the question that I asked earlier. How do you trust the same police force which is in the dock, which has been accused of brutalizing and killing somebody, of, carrying out a fair investigation against their own? We can't hear you. Hasina, can you please unmute yourself?
Having worked with law enforcement for many, many years and having agreed the fact that the sensitivity and training of enforcement has become a part and parcel of the human right value and principle that India has adopted, because they've signed many protocol. Having signed many protocol, having incorporated a lot of training programs to bring in highly sensitivity in the way human rights are being, dealt at every level. No doubt that is happening. But the fact remains, having worked with uniform personnel, it's a human being who's wearing a uniform, bringing that change mindset that when you're wearing that uniform, you are actually wearing a responsibility. And there is a law to it. So if you're talking about a law to it, I know that the other panelists has mentioned about the various commission, which are toothless in terms of just giving recommendations or giving what is a way forward. Yes. But we really need to wake up that we still have the judiciary. Now, if you look at the significant provision with the respect to custodial torture, which is leading to death, that is section 176 of the code, where compulsory
the
magisterial...
problem is we have enough laws on our statute books. If only these laws were fairly and strictly implemented. We talk about this so often. For example, in rape cases of sexual crimes against women, after Nirbhaya, we had a brand new anti-rape law, yet nothing has changed for women in this country, because the problem lies with the implementation. The problem lies with the implementation. Hasina, I have limited time. I need to go close to the others. Henry, the question I want to simply ask you is, are you and Vignesh's family hopeful that justice will be done? Because even though 2 cops have been suspended so far, not one person has been arrested in this case. And does it worry you that the Chief Minister just repeats the version of the police while commenting on this case? Do you believe there will be a fair investigation by the Tamil Nadu police and that the guilty cops will be booked and punished?
Yeah. You're asking me?
Yes, Henry, that is for you.
Be very sure the family is very, very hopeful. The family is hopeful because they are protected. They are protected in a commune. We have ensured that they are protected in a commune. And the first time a parentless family, a homeless family of 5 brothers who are surviving are experiencing love from people like you and me, you people on shows, people like me and other colleagues who are giving them protection. They are 100% sure that they will get justice. On the 6th, as we know, the elder brother is going to appear before the Metropolitan Magistrate to give his statement.
Okay.
Can you imagine that he has appeared on TV channels? He has appeared before the district collector to receive the 10 lakhs. But the judicial magistrate summon could not be served by the Tamil Nadu police to him. And therefore, they had to stick it on the wall, on the door of his house, which he has not opened since the 20th of April.
Amazing.
This is utterly shameful.
Yes.
But still, we have reached out, assured the court, we will bring him there. And he will hand over the 1 lakh rupees that was given to hush up the matter.
The 1 lakh rupees that was given to hush up the matter. That's a very serious allegation.
Injuries are clear. The fracture is clear. Evidence is there.
Okay.
We need to ensure, and I want to insist on your show, we want to ensure that the CBCID Tamil Nadu tries to ensure that a superintendent of police heads the investigation.
Well, we certainly hope, sir, that there is a fair probe. We certainly hope there is a fair probe. These are very serious allegations. of custodial killing and also of offering a bribe to the family to keep silent, to hush up the case. As we wrap up this discussion, SP Ved, I want to come back to you. Yes, we need police reforms in this country, and yes, we need greater sensitization of our police forces. But you know, fact of the matter is, it's now come to a point where in multiple cases, forgive me for saying this, the law enforcers have turned into law breakers. You know, we are discussing this case of a custodial death on a day when another horrific case involving the police came to light from Uttar Pradesh. A 13-year-old child goes to a police station to report a case of gang rape. She had been subjected to gang rape, and the house station in charge rapes her. Yes, the man has been arrested, but how are the police forces in this country going to inspire confidence in the citizens that they are there to protect them when in so many cases they turn out to be the violators?
Absolutely, I agree. When I was reading that, it is horrific, and such a person should be, I think, hanged. If a person who is supposed to protect her resorts to a rape victim, nothing can be worse than this. And I think all these police stations should be very well lit and covered under video camera all across the country. First thing that should be done. And number two, all such cases should be investigated by independent police agency, not police of that state, somebody else. Let it be an independent which is not under these officers, and should be investigated by a senior officer of the SP's level. And in fact, in our state, if Jammu Kashmir, as if I recall correctly, whenever such death takes place in the police complex or in the custody, it is mandatory that the judicial inquiry has to be ordered. The magisterial inquiry has to be ordered, and only after that the case is registered. So transparency, many steps. That's why I was saying we need a lot of reforms. We need moral education. We need training. We
and
need
also, you made an important point. Apart from the need for police reforms, you're saying that cops who are independent of those who've been accused in a case such as this need to carry out the investigation. Last word to you, PK Jain. My question to you simply, sir, is, since you are a former cop too, how do you restore trust in the police force, which unfortunately has been seriously eroded over the years? Today in this country, you know, instead of having the confidence that you can walk up to a cop and seek protection, people in this country, ordinary citizens in this country, are scared of the men in khaki. I'm sorry to say this to you, but I think you might agree.
I unfortunately agree with you, Neha. It takes a lot of time for the confidence to be built. If a policeman, you know, we are all recognized by the uniform, which is khaki. So any man in khaki, if he breaks the code, if he breaks his moral responsibility, if he breaks his moral conduct, the entire police force gets a bad name, and it takes a lot of time to instill that confidence once again. The only thing I can say in this case is that the officers who are investigating the case, the senior officers, must come clean, complete the investigation immediately, and ensure that the maximum amount of punishment would be meted out to people who perpetrate crimes like this.
Yes.
It is a very, very heinous crime. Extremely unfortunate that a thing like this has happened. And you know, unfortunately, in this case, the SP has come out very clean the moment this NGO approached along with the girl to him. He got the case registered, got some accused arrested. The SHO also was arrested from Prayagraj, and now the case is probably on its right track. The government would do well by establishing a fast-track court and taking the case to its logical conclusion.
Well, perhaps there should be a fast-track court for this to try this case. I think that's a very good suggestion. I think we can conclude this discussion by agreeing that when law enforcers turn law breakers, we need to make an example of them. At the end of the day, that is what we need to restore the credibility of the police. Let's hope there will be justice for Vignesh and his family. Let's hope there will be justice for that 13-year-old girl who was brutalized twice over, the second time by a policeman. Thanks very much to my guests for joining me on the show, and thanks to the viewers for watching.